start our first afternoon session. So we have a block of 90 minutes. There will be two big topics. First issue to discuss, that is portability of the mobile numbers. And another issue which is quite different, that is the information security. These are quite different issues, but still we decided to join them. Let me introduce you our panelists. There is Vartan Khachaturov, Yuri Kargapolov, Onik from the Ukraine, Valery Temnikov, that is the appeal center, who is in charge of the possible participation at the MNP, and Andrei Kirillin, main technological expert. He is our main engineer, security engineer, who is in charge of different national registers and domains. He's a unique person, and to start, I suppose it's better if you don't have a presentation, you can speak standing. So maybe Vartan, could you tell us a couple of words about the MNP project? What is the current situation? Coordination Center is a possible participant of the operator of centralized database. It is a participant because we live at the market and the best are to be chosen, who have more expertise, and we are one of the companies for whom this project is interesting. Vartan, the floor is yours. Well, the current situation is the following. Everybody knows that in December there are changes, there are amendments to the law on communication. Since the 1st of December, there can be a possibility to move from one operator to another, keeping their mobile number. There should be legislative regulations, and there should be 8 decrees of the government. Out of them, 2 or 3 have been already issued, and the others are now in the governmental apparatus. There are some disagreements with various federal executive bodies, but now the majority of them is solved. We have some disagreements with the operators, and it is not a surprise for us, because I suppose that all the operators worldwide are not happy with MNP, but we believe that even today there are some negotiations at the governmental apparatus. There are main documents which are being discussed today. For example, like some blanks of the request. After that, after the rules, there should be a decree on the financing of a database, and then some other decrees, because the operator of the database is named by the government of the Russian Federation, so the operator is to be chosen. As Andrew said, what you are going to hear is just one of the options. We have several options. Some commercial vendors and the colleagues from the Coordination Center CTLD, and there should be a decree from the Ministry on Technical Cooperation where the protocol on cooperation will be described. If you sometimes read newspapers. If you're so unlucky that you have to read it, then you can hear the voice of operators that they will not be on time. So, note as for me, there are no changes, because the only possibility to change the deadline is to change the federal law. We understand what problems the operators face, but still the law is law, and we have nothing to do but to implement it. There can be a part launch, or maybe the vice premier will postpone it for a month or for two. But the position of the government is quite exact, quite strict here. If any operator doesn't meet the demands, they break the regulations, and they will be then prosecuted in court. So, if you have any questions, then maybe what should we do? I suppose that first we do some presentations, and after that there will be more questions, and then we make a Q&A session. And after that we speak about term. I'd like to discuss I'd like to explain why is MNP discussed here. One of the ways described by our colleagues is the use of our traditional methods for providing MNP. So, Andrea, which is called EPP for MNP. So we use the old technology of EPP in the registration of domain names in RU, RF, and SU. This technology is the main by implementation of MNP project. We use the technologies which we have already used for ages, the infrastructure which has been working also for ages. When we speak about MNP and its technical implementation, we can discuss the following requirements from the Communication Ministry. First of all, there is availability of service 24/7. The protocol should be easy and it should be convenient to be implemented by the operators, because the operators are big bodies with a huge number of services. So then, technical requirements that the implemented protocol should work at any operator's platform which currently exists. At the first stage there was another requirement. So the MNP project within the borders of one region of the Russian Federation, and then to implement and introduce this protocol of the central database of portable numbers. First of all, let's speak about the terms, the terminology. The recipient operator is who gets the number, the donating is from whom the client moves to their requiring to the receiving operator. So there are several stages. There's checking of legitimacy of porting. After the business mode, the client comes to the operator to which he wants, and then there are technical issues. So there is checking of possibility of porting. That should be no blocking of the number, and the money at the account. Then the date and time when the number is ported. Then the second stage, it is the cooperation between the recipient and the donating operator through the central database of portable numbers. There can be any analysis. There is analytical works, different works related to this stuff. Then the donating operator should agree to let this number go, and the receiving operator should agree that it is ready to receive it. And the last stage, the donating operator and the recipient operator participate in the porting of the number. The next slide has a chart. It is the ideal scheme, so to speak. Here to the left you can see the parameters T1, T1, T2, and so on. They can be changed depending on the type of client, whether it is a legal or natural entity. Now speaking about the porting, this stage, the central database has another requirement. At porting, it coordinates the operators so that it prevents the one operator to collect huge amount of donated or received numbers which cannot be proceeded. So probably in short, that's it. As for the infrastructure, it bases on the infrastructure of the DNS system and DNS registration system. Infrastructurally, we want to develop this system so that it is the continuation of another project which is called ENAM. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll organize the Q&A session. So let me comment on a couple of things. It is evident that there are several types of MNP organization in the country, and so far we think that our main goal is to make it easy. We don't want a subscriber to go to different organizations, and the subscriber should come to the recipient, sign a document, and then everything works without a subscriber. Here's receiver would like to have a new subscriber, and the donator doesn't want to let this subscriber go. The processes are based on this solution. The centralized database was discussed from the very beginning. Sometimes there are countries where the centralized database does not exist, and there are direct connections between the operators. The operators said that it is impossible to have the certain protocols and certain connections between each other. So in all the documents we have the plan of central database where the results of all the ports are logged. Well, that is probably the main comments I'd like to make, just for you to understand how it is going to be to work. So as far as I understand, a lot of time was spent for negotiating on T1, T2, so it can be done every 5 minutes. There are billing of the operators, there is the civil code, and this time are regulated. And as far as I understand, Fartan, they will be in the regulations on services. So yes, these regulations actually describe the order of services, some minimum sum of money at the account, and so on and so forth. When it is issued, when these regulations are issued, then we can understand how much time the subscriber doesn't have any connection. So maybe it is like 30 minutes now, and we had some comments that in the United States it can be done in 90 minutes. But then we got the reply that in the United Kingdom it is done for 1 month. Then, yes, it is a kind of a compromise. Maybe we'd change this and we could speed up the process. The main problem with timing, if we look at the federal law, it is said that the porting is possible when there are no debts by the subscriber, while debt is widespread. If you were 10 days ago and the tap files were not get by the operator after you have been in the roaming 10 days ago, for example, and the tap files can come in 30 minutes, then is there any debt by the subscriber? So a lot of problems with too long procedure. It is just a time to check whether the subscriber has debts or no. There is another problem with our legislation. If a subscriber moves to another operator with a debt, the operators cannot send the payment from one to another. They don't have a bank license. And the original idea that the recipient can just give money to the donator, but it is impossible. And it is impossible to block the subscriber at a new operator because there is another contract between the client and the recipient, and that is why, well, this issue of the debt is still not, the discussion is not finished yet, and it is one of the main barriers which we are going to overcome. Our position is the following. You come to stop the contract with the operator, and the operator says, okay, in 10 days I break you. But if your debt terms, the operator gets in 11 days, for example, 12 days, your debt, then what should they do? So I see that the technical aspect is not the most difficult. The most difficult it is in the regulations. The technical implementation is very easy. This is a process which is well known in other countries. But there are really no technical issues. There can be a more beautiful or less beautiful solution. Technically, it is not different, but it is very difficult to work within the current legislation. Well, speaking about some abstract things, I suppose I give the floor. Well, probably all the questions will be at the end. So Valery Temnikov will tell us about the future of this scheme using UBP and what is the development of telephone systems. Distinguished colleagues, let me go on with the idea of Vartan. There is no problems with the implementation of MNP. We have a big expertise in this area, both in the telephone networks and in the internet networks. So my story is about using DNS for solving problems of MNP and some other issues of traditional telephone systems. There's a convergence or merging of the telephone technologies and telephone industry with package technologies, 3G, 4G technologies, with all the attributes of the internet network are widespread and are widely implemented. Therefore, our solution, MNP solution, follows this trend, and it makes it more attractive, and it can help the operators to solve their problems and to lay the foundation for future development. First of all, let me tell you some basic things. What is the core of the MNS? That is the telephone number in EU164 format. You can see here a description at this slide. So it is a combination of codes A, B, C, D, E, F and decimals, which shows the end element of the telephone network. Now, it is either a mobile phone or a smartphone or a tablet PC. Everybody has such devices. Then, next thing, it is a routing number. It is created by the operators together with us. It is their format. It is both letter and digit symbol, so that this telephone cannot be dialed from the usual telephone. So there is the code of the operator and technological number, which defines the device in the operator network. Oops, it is a wrong presentation probably. But could you speak about this? Yes, fine. The information message consists of two fields. That is the telephone number and routing number. We didn't need to invent anything in DNS, so you can see the format, the phone number in enum format. And there is the NAPTR replacement NAPTR with the information about routing number. So this chart of portable numbers can be implemented and can be distributed via the tree of communication. This technology is known as ENOM, E106, for number mapping, a chain of protocols to make the reflection of the telephone numbers at DNF system. With this system, you can get information about everything, including the routing number. What ENOM what does ENOM give us? If we introduce MNP, we can make MNP in DNS, and we can develop this system, adding services, for example, CIB, postal address, or personal address of the website, which the ENOM specification has. What models of ENOM can be chosen? There are three approaches. There is private ENOM, infrastructure ENOM or operators ENOM, and public ENOM. So I tried to show you the street light. Now we are in Russia, and Russia is in this situation when we can implement private ENOM only, because the 7 is not delegated in the zone of E164 ARB, and therefore this ENOM, which can implement private targets within the country and within the small group of operators, the cooperation with trans-border operators, I mean foreign operators, will be quite limited, because private ENOM does not give an opportunity for distributing the information in the international tree. If we can delegate 7, we can implement infrastructure ENOM, which can be supported by the foreign operators. How can it help us in MNP? Due to the cooperation with the operators, we had problems with delivery of calls when they have been moved from one operator to another, because the routing system, international routing system, will send the call to the operator who is the owner of the number according to the numbering plan, and there is no other way to make international networks to send the call in the right direction. So in our model we have such onboard routing that the call coming to the operator who is owner of the number is being routed according to the inner mechanism, inner tools, to the network of the receiving operator. The moving of information and the implementation of ENOG with full-scale delegation can give us an opportunity to implement this for the international operators and foreign operators to make the route shorter. And we believe that this way is easier and it is more direct. It is under development now and probably we will solve it. And as the final victory is the implementation of public ENAM when with the DNS and internet technologies it will be possible to implement the fixation of identificator to a man, because when we call we need a person, a subscriber, and not his location. So implementation of public ENAM gives us an opportunity to use the tools provided either by an operator or by anybody else or by a website to manage the services and addressing of the network as it happens with a personal account which can be moved from one internet provider to another, from one hosting platform to another, and nobody who visits this web page cannot see this. Just print the address and then goes to it.
Now, a couple of words on the following. To do it, we need infrastructure, quite important infrastructure, and existing one. And at the moment, we have such infrastructure in Russia. It is a DNS network, which actually covers whole Russia. It works quite accurately. It covers the whole world. It's a written DNS network. You can see it on the website. Those potent DNS nodes quite complicated. They connected to traffic exchange points. They have redundancy, all the things to minimize access time, to minimize routes to networks. So each subscriber can have high-speed access to the information spread through the network. Written DNS network is made in cooperation with MSKIX. It is the largest Russian traffic exchange point. In Russia, it's to build such infrastructure is quite a long process. This technical system was started to build it by Rosneft since 1997, which was actually the one of the first developers of internet in Russia, and TC is actually, let's say, followed Rosneft. So actually, we accumulated the 20 years experience and efforts of lots of people. So it's not that easy to recreate it from scratch. So this slide shows main technical parameters, which are quite high, quite potent and quite fast. And another interesting application we can implement using DNS technology, and which is quite good for mobile operators. We're talking about the GPRS roaming exchange service. This service is actually required for mobile device roaming to provide internet access. For us, it's quite important. National roaming, it's a big issue, and by traveling along Russia or abroad, they might have some skyrocketing bills. So DNS and internet exchange using GRX with the help of GRX technology enables or can enable mobile operator to considerably diminish their costs not lowering price for final subscribers, and we hope that the end users will be able to pay less, and ideally we will be able not to pay, we'll be able to avoid additional costs, at least traveling around Russia. I think operators, mobile operators, think will be against it. Well, operators, I say, we have lots of costs. Our costs are very high. Well, we will help them with that. Internet used to be very expensive, but now many people have access to that these days. So it's hard. It's hard to sort of say. It's hard to argue on that. But it used to be quite expensive. So now I'd like to finish my presentation. So here's a slide. So this slide shows the advantages. So we think the use of internet technologies for MNP is the right way to go. It will push further development of communication systems, and will be the first step to prepare preparation for technology convergence. We should use phone number to address services in the network, and there will be new services for subscribers. And which one? Well, I think that we can think it over. Thank you. It's a great description of, so to say, faraway future and science fiction. Yuri, now is this topic, we can develop this topic further, as far as I understand. And 1/3 only of the potential was described with this MNP stuff. So what do you think about it, about the use of those processes which there are in Ukraine? So let's talk about the status. What's the situation in Ukraine? Well, so first of all, thank you for the possibility to talk at this session. And surely I'm really pleased to see so many people being present here this plenary session. I remember the talk which I made about 18 months ago, and ENOG too. There were about maybe 20 of us, maybe even less. Though it was very hard discussion with further, so to say, with dinner and personal talks, so to say. So about Ukraine, I'm pleased to say that that our approaches are quite close, and actually what we push through and what we try to do in Russia, in Ukraine, you already have it in Russia, but in some issues we actually are more advanced in Ukraine, and we let's say more bold and more maybe more correct, more appropriate. We do. Well, I should say that we defined was regarding the MNP. We need to have a donor, or we need to turn to recipients, not to the donors, because it will be another leverage for no MNP, for no phone transfer. With regard of some phone debts, we don't have problems with that. If there is some debt, they have a right to move the number to another operator, and the specific way is described in the documents. And about the time frame, we're saying that it should be 24 hours. So in that respect, we work in with regard to the standards and requirements of the European Union. So within this framework, and we studied those directives and those changes in the Directive 22 of the European Union, and especially the Article 1331, and 24 hours. It's one of the most important requirements. So we wrote down in our regulatory documents, and which describes in detail legislation. So we place this number, 24 hours. About the schematics, about the layout, it's a layout with centralized database without possibility to have replicas in mobile operators. I used to be the head of the Department of Strategic Development of Telecommunications in Ukraine, in the administration of the president, and we had several working groups, several meetings, where we discussed several layouts. And in particular, there are four basic approaches. There are four basic layouts: onward routing, direct routing, LT query, LT release, and all-pole query. And we discussed not even four, but six versions, because we thought about all-call query and query and release. We considered them through the use of local databases with mobile operators. But finally, we decided that we're going to use a centralized database. And I will tell you why. Because we, in this respect, we thought about not only the need to implement mobile roaming, to implement, so to say, possibility to transfer the phone numbers, but we consider it as a step in implementing a particular task set in 2004, which is written in the concept of development of telecommunications of Ukraine. So one of the statements of this concept is gradual transfer to providing subscribers with individualized, personalized services. So at the end of the road, forming such an environment, such a service environment, forming such a market for services with mobile connections, where which should be the same or should be alike internet services environment. And finally, we came to such a definition, and at least we haven't seen it in any other places. We came to the thing like a personal number. So personal and number, of course, people, they know these words, but our meaning, our definition for that was a bit different with these two words. We never saw it, we never heard about it in such a meaning. So personal number is a number which is provided to a person from the date of birth till the death. It's not the number like E64 of a national numbering system. It's a number which a person can use to switch from one operator to another. And talking about the transfer of the phone numbers, we're talking about this possibility to transfer those numbers as a stage in implementing this task of personal number system. And another important thing that we actually form new market. We actually create new market segments, developing phone number transferring in that respect. And I did like, and I would like to remember it when we talked about this traffic exchange points just before that. It was said that IX operators should be independent, non-affiliated market unit. Shouldn't be affiliated with any of the operators. In the same way, the administrator of the central database should be non-affiliated, should be independent market unit. So generally speaking, we create new element, new subject of the market. It's not just like a new market segment being developed. We create a new element which has not yet been in existence. So talking about the implementation per se, as I said, we selected this layout with a central database, and naturally we faced the following operators. Operators were concerned, even greatly concerned, because operators losing such a serious monopolistic leverage to press the market, which could exist if they have localized databases. And our Israel colleague says, do not think about creating local databases. And we said, why? And our colleague said, we used to have local databases, now we're switching to central one, because actually it was up to 6 days people could not switch. So couldn't, the data is, so to say, duplicated or moved through, so it could be up to 6 days to switch, to transfer the number. This trend on number transferring is a trend in the European Union. Even in those countries which try to use local databases, they finally decided to switch to central databases. Talking about the documents regulating our approaches, our layouts. Already, technical conditions for provision of such service has been so to say, written down. Such documents were registered in Ukraine as a regulatory enactment, obligatory for all market actors. All those documents, and maybe I forgot to tell you one important thing, they are developed as a part on implementation of those changes in the law on telecommunications, which were introduced before. There were 3 novel statements. There was an issue on number portability, there was an issue on personal numbers, and there was a change on roaming. So it was a statement on national roaming in Ukraine. And as a stage of approval of the statement on number portability, the one which you mentioned as rules in the Russian Federation. So actually those rules are all has been described, written down and described in black and white. And now some specific documents which you mentioned, should be about 8 documents to be developed. We changed. We decided to go a little bit different way. We thought about that it is such a rapidly, dynamically developing industry that write down documents to be adopted by the government, to give some law status of the law. It's too complex, too complicated. So we decided to do the following. The administrator of the central database, which should be selected or should be elected during the tender by the national regulator, and it's going to be an open tender, open bid, with also supplication and so forth. This administrator is going to develop instructions, and those instructions are going to be approved and agreed upon by the administration on communications in Ukraine. We think that such layout is more flexible, and it will enable us to introduce faster changes if any technological things are required. So once we work it out, once we work out this objective on number portability, then our next task, our next objective, which we're going to think of, is to form or to develop a service, or to develop the service with the help of these personal numbers. But then there is a question: where those personal numbers should be stored? And the natural answer is as follows: they should be in the central database. And from the central database, these numbers should be accessed and so to say maintained in the central database, and the operators will have an access to that. And talking about all technological solutions regarding individualization, personalization, so on and so forth, I was really pleased to hear such stuff related that you mentioned about the ENOG protocol. In the break time, we talked with some ENOG participants, and I heard the following: ENOG is dead for many years. I have been hearing for that for 4 years about ENOG is dead. No, it's not dead. It's not yet, so to say, deployed as it should be. And in that respect, development of such personalized services on the basis of these personal numbers makes actually possible to develop ENOG of the public or user type. And today, I could tell you, I think I can state that there is no public or user ENOG anywhere in the world. There are implementations of ENOG, the inter-operators types, or corporate implementations of ENOG, but they do not give anything. They're not good for personal use, individual use at all. So that's why it seems that ENOG is dead. Who of those being in that room could you say something against this connection, this association between portability and DNS? Could you say something against it? It's hard, actually. to be against it. But the question is, what we can use to do it. Is there any mechanism except for ENOG to implement this task? Well, no. This link or this association, well, it has been shown to you. Is it working? Is it working? Is it active? Is it alive? Yes, it's alive. But why ENOG is that? Let's say, let's not to be limited with terminology. You know, naming things like ENOG, we are getting in a kind of a trap of RFC type defining this protocol. So maybe we should talk about DNS with applying to LTE. Well, talking about the LTE, that's absolutely different system of user identification. That's another system for access. So we have 7 last minutes till the end of the MNP session. So maybe let's use them for Q&As. Thanks for a wonderful talk about the Ukrainian way of MNP. So, dear colleagues, any questions? So it's time for questions. Quite short question regarding Russian implementation. What is reading access to ENOG going to be open for public internet, or only for operators, or how? Well, it's clear that there are 2 databases. One stores current status and for transfer process, so only subscribers all the operators will know about that. But the information about the final numbers, about phone numbers and routing numbers, they will be able to communication operators and routing operators, and it's hard to open up the system in full because it will be the great joy for spammers. And of course, there are going to be a mechanism for queries for a particular number. But if this bay is open up in full for wide public, that's a big issue. What about spammers to use it? That's great to have a great database of live numbers, which you know for sure that they are alive, that they are active. That's great for spammers, you know. It's not into the mic, I'm sorry. The question is not into the mic. There are different arguments for that. I still have about the text service. I do have SMS on text on CAP service, which I never used before. So now we want to open up my number to the void public. And talking about the ENOG, everybody knows that ENOG it's a great and it's alive or revived ENOG. That's great, but there is a big problem that 7 is divided between us and Kazakhstan. That's you know it. It's we have a common, so to say, number, and so to separate delegation between us and Kazakhstan, we need to change the agreement between 2 countries, which nobody actually is going to do it. Once we manage to do it and change it, then everybody's going to be happy. Then you mentioned a quite interesting topic regarding the following. MNP could be a great step forward for integration of the network, of the phone network in internet. Such things like asterisk, they could develop IP address or terminal for the connection. Things are well known, and the things which will replace phone number. And I think that in the dozens of years, in 10 years, in the coming decade, this thing like a phone number will die. And this way of access to information is going to be in open access, or ENOG is going to be some closed technology to be used for operators, and ENOG is going to be just a name, but not actual meaning is going to be there. You know, in internet, if we take it a long period of time, not just 1 year, but in 10 years and in 20 years, now, in internet, appearance of new things, it actually depends on time. Of course, we know that people are people are going to be happy, but when this happens, when everybody's happy, I think only the richest oligarchs in internet know about it. So I could answer this way: maybe it will happen, but when, nobody actually knows. Among those 3.5 billion of phone numbers used in the world, if I'm not wrong, maybe more, phone numbers in .164. So out of those 4.5 billion of phone numbers, let's think about this thing. So just all of a sudden, this entire system just dropped down. Let's talk about the physical line phones. So what's wrong with the mobile ones? The numbers, they didn't change. This Chelyabinsk case, Chelyabinsk story, it shows which phone lines will exist, which lines are, so to say, going to be there. It was a Chelyabinsk Sky Stone in megaphone bill. One of the operators of cellular operators, that's going to be interesting for you. That for one of the operators didn't have the ring of their optic fibers, and near the wall of this factory, the wall fall down. There was a multiplexer, destroyed the multiplexer, and half of the transportation network actually was destroyed and didn't work. So it's an issue it's a question to it's an issue of transportation. About the Skystone, I could argue with you. In the beginning of the 2000, in the year 2000, there was a war between Lebanon and Israel, and the only thing which worked it was internet which survived there, because there was a bomb and destroyed the physical lines. Guys, they're going to be storm ahead of us. Just let's save our efforts. A little bit of question about policy. It's going to be MNP. Is it an open system or closed system? Will it have an external access? I don't know. Just don't know. Look at the person behind you. Okay, Alexander Popov, Rock Telecom. Just continuing the previous question, I'd like to say thanks a lot for this wonderful story about ENOG and DNS. It's a very important topic, even despite this number portability issues, because we are an operator of IP telephony, and there is a quite considerable and there is a request for phone numbers for people who want to have some IP number, so they can use to call using local tariffs, local rates. The operators wouldn't like it at all. So I think it's a question to ministry. So International Transit Telecom, they started to introduce those ENOG numbers. I would like to give you such a response. In Ukraine, when we tried to develop and work out all those technologies in 2009, we introduced such a thing, such a term as a numeric number. It was 089, and this code is a great thing. It's not geographic code for a fixed network. Dear colleagues, wait a second. I would like to rephrase this question to Vartan. Vartan, let's say NDMM schematics. Will it? For how long will it live here? You want to know the time frame or what? Well, the thing is, it's quite clear that the rights of connection, which is built on that. Our precast, our orders number 97 and 98, they are, so to say, softly speaking, they are a little bit obsolete, a little bit old. So we're working about that, maybe to change them, or or we'd like to completely disregard them at the end of the road. So talking about the tutorial distributed commit switches, so maybe we can have switches at the different places. It's not easy and rapid topic, and large phone operators they are against of it. So I wouldn't be very specific. I don't want to be very specific. So I'd like to ask a very question. As I say, like yes, no. I would like to have such an answer. Yes, no. Maybe we should ask Andrei or Yuri about portability of fixed numbers. In the USA, it works. So are there any plans to have portable fixed numbers? If yes, no. Yes, there are plans for that. Or it's delayed for some long time. Would you know? Well, let's say in a technical implementation, there are no plans, so to say. It's an issue to regulate. Technical is not a big deal. I think once we have the rules, it wouldn't be the problem. And actually, I could tell you the following. If we talk about the domain model and phone model, the domain model is more complex. It has much more of competition and more requirements. But the transfer is simply. So, are we going to have fixed numbers in Russia, which will turn to be mobile or not? Well, it's a question of time. Talking about Ukraine, I could tell you the following: that the technology per se of fixed portability of fixed network numbers. It's not something. It's not something incredible. But there's a problem of transit. We resolved it. We resolved this problem of transit. I could tell you how. Not now, maybe. But I should say, yeah, it's the second stage. As thinking about the number portability, the second stage issue. We're not talking about the mobile portability document. We have documents on number portability, general number portability. So another thing, can we move from fixed to mobile or mobile to fixed network? Well, you know, until we have such a plan of numbering, until we have this national plan of numbering, well, I'm afraid that that's going to be impossible. Though technologically, it's quite easy. Well, there are some legal limitations which are determined with those rates and those interconnections existing at the moment. Existing at the moment with a way of operator discussion. So FNP is in the plans. Yes, don't worry about it. Okay, next one. Roman Droshkov, Kommersant newspaper. As Mr. Khachaturov said, I have two questions. I want to ask them at once. Well, first of all, is any alternative to the procedure, to those technologies which our speakers from TCE and other organizations described, or DNS structure is the only one existing technology? Because there's going to be because it looks like that those who are going to be the operator of the phone number database, that's already a resolved issue. And as I said, I should say, it's not yet finally resolved. There could be operator for this database. It could appear only as a result of the tender or a contest or a government statement. According to the current legislation, what you've heard is just one of the options, and which is ideal for the audience. And actually, it's about a dozen of vendors offering such platforms. They do exist in the Russian Federation. They do have integrators, and they're in a queue to become operators of the database, of this database, of central database. So it's not the only option. There are others. The others are still under consideration. And the second question, so the law on NMP should be enforced since the 1st of December. The subscribers, I mean the phone companies and vendors, they against it. They say we couldn't do that. They said that that's only spring 2014, only April 2014 is a more real time frame. So it's a question, is it possible to think about some time frame changes? So I would like to ask the regulator, so would you think about meeting the requests of operators and suppliers, or no? Or no, that then there's going to be some sanctions to the participants of this process? So I would like to know what will be the penalties and punishments, and let's be faster about it. So it's 6 minutes of Zoom. So I have two bosses, the Vice Ministry and Vice Prime Minister. And the Vice Ministry, Mr. Sverdlov, said that there will be no transferring of the deadlines. There will be no change of the deadlines, and that's right. It's a federal law, and no one actually cancelled it. At the meeting of the ministry, Mr. Dvorkovich said that he thinks that it might be possible that for a very short time frame, the operators will be permitted not to do it. There is a public information, but there is no other legal enactments, and the penalties are the same as for other violations of any articles of the law. And I could correct that usually in a practical sense, as I could show you, the penalties are not yet. So no one is punished. No one will come you next day to punish you. It's not practically. It hasn't been actually in practice. And the question about the Russian implementation: will it be possible to move the number, not to the operator, but to move to SIP, not between the operators, but to have my personal number? No, numbers they're not owned by people. The numbers are own to the number phone is owned by the Federation. But is it possible to move some SIP entries, SIP numbers? So we should remove the routing number and have only SIP number. Well, if we have public enum, well, yes, it could be possible. So, Anton, you mean would it be possible, technological, to move it to another technology? Yes, sure. Well, maybe yes. Why now? But today we don't know, since the legislation should be changed at the end for those technologies which we will develop, and how it will be changed. It's a big question. It's a big question on technology. We should have some technologies and experience, and then we will look at it. And no one wants to cut the profits of the mobile operators. And we should understand. We should be very, very cautious. We should not destroy existing business schemes of the mobile operators. We should do it along with them.
So please, Dmitry, the floor is yours. Dmitry Burkov. The first sub-question I have not heard. Is it the special network? Well, I have another question. If it is distributed from the database, then what for do we need ENOG? And what are you going to do with GSM and the DNS? How many routes are you going to introduce to the mobile operators? I don't know. And what for do you need ENOG? Because it is, well, it's not a problem to update and distribute. With ENOG, it is just more difficult. At the locked closed network, well, what think you want to place your all eggs in one basket? Then you put under danger the whole system of DNS. Well, Dmitry, let me explain you. We try to implement MNP, and there are several options, and we have chosen one of them. At each call, there is a request on the system which gives the routing number. Do you want to crash the whole country? I prefer. Vartan, understand that it is very dangerous. Well, the operators takes a replica, then put in a hardware. There is a copy of this replica, and nobody addresses to DNS at each event of signalization. But Vartan, well, let me finish. We'll speak about a SORM a bit later. The operators, it doesn't matter in what mode they take it. DNS is a good idea from the point of view of future development in ENOG, in package and so on. But there is another very important thing. The content providers, payment providers, and others are interested in DNS. And DNS requests are quite good for such base. And believe me, nobody will request. Vartan, I hope how it is organized worldwide. Dmitry, nobody within the operator will address to DNS. Then forget about ENOG and do Dmitry, give us an opportunity to show the beautiful picture. When I said that then personalized services and mechanisms and tools, it is the ENOG protocol, and I have forgotten to say, please pay attention to the field services and regaps. It is the idea and not the routing list. Colleagues, I must I have to stop the discussion as a moderator and give the floor to Vartan. So will it sit? Yes, let's sit. So now you're free. Okay, let's speak about investigative measures. Could you download about this? So probably I'll tell you something new, but I would like to listen to you and not in the dirty words. Well, we have the federal law on law enforcement support system, which regulates the activities of the police, and there is a special article that the relevant bodies, can run following activities. This is a federal law. So this right is given to the relevant bodies. If you look at this law, and it can be done without a proof of the judge, but not for the time not over 48 hours. So this information can be collected for 48 hours, but then they must have a sanction. It is an interesting law, and you can get acquainted with it. We have a law on communication 126, and here you can see the what the operator must do for this law enforcement support system. It is it is fixed in the license text, and all the operators should do this in our country. So if you look at the this law or less, you can find that all these activities should be run with special technical equipment of the federal of the FSB, Federal Security Service, and there is a legal framework. There is decree of the government and the decrees of the communication ministry. Here I enlisted just a couple of them. There are old and there are new. So before that we had the following methodology. Each type, and we take it from the spirit of the law. So each type of the service, we should have a document. These are regulations on network construction. Let me split the comments why we do this. And there is a part which tells that there should be licensed equipment. Then we have the regulations on implementation of equipment, then technical requirements on equipment, and after that we work out methodology of tests, and then certification lab checks this equipment. I must say that till now the law enforcement support system was organized in another way. So the equipment of the operator was not certified. One could buy a box or a hardware which the operator wanted. Now, new regulations on implementation. Those who know what I am speaking about can understand that it is to regulate the market of facilities which are used by the operators and to create competition. So there are certified boxes for each service. And then it is the problem of the relevant bodies to check it. So it is the main goal of law enforcement support system. It is formulated by that relevant body. So more or less it is clear. When there is an object of law enforcement support, we should find it out as quickly as possible, then listen to it. Not stopping the control when it is shifted from one network to another, not tell about it to anybody, and make so that nothing is broken up, nothing crashes. This way it is reasonable so far. You can see the same in other countries, almost the same. You can see the main technical solutions, what the relevant bodies should be. They should be the main links, inter-country links, then closer to the subscribers. They should get information at all types of the connections and information, actually the content of connections. You must understand that there are two big areas. One about the access to the content and another about the content or about the information about the connections. So the main difference is that operators should keep statistics and statistic information, and the access to the content of the messengers is possible for the controlled objects only. And you can see this difference at the slide. So there is a database and statistics. Here is the most interesting, and then the access to the content. How does it work in Russia? There is a border between the area of responsibility of the operator and the relevant bodies. An operator installs the equipment according to the rules and regulations. This equipment for law enforcement support is connected to the core system of the operator, and the other end goes to the control screen of the law enforcement support system. The border between these two areas, it is actually an existing situation. And if you read various discussions at the internet about that, and also the trial experience, we can see that the border is not really exact. There are relevant means at the facilities of the operator. So the opened documents cover the blue circle here, as well as the interface. And this interface is described in the rules of implementation, and this document has the implementation rules, how it can be implemented. So, and this, as for the requirements to this hardware, is secret. So maybe there is the reply part for the protocol. Here is the order of activities by law enforcement support. First, we need to define the subscriber's number. Then, with a special message, it is put by the control at the facilities of the operator. The results of law enforcement support goes to the control points, to all relevant control points. And so the information about geographical location of a subscriber should go to the central point. Then identification of the user according to the voice features and so on. What can be used for as filters? What features can be, what information can be filtered? So you can see here some sets. There are more, and all of them are familiar, and they are described in the regulating documents. Of course, it can be filtered by the name and surname. First, it is done with through the request to the database, using the information systems of the operator's database. Then there should be identifier like IMCSI, IMEI, or MAC address, and then the technical identifier is being controlled. In fact, any feature which you can think of can be a filter. You can probably be surprised that I speak about Post and Telegraph. The relevant bodies have opportunity to read the telegrams, but it is the only official mean of connection, and it is it can be the only proof for example, the place of your work and so on. There are still documents at which we are working. They are related to the control of telegraph. And another surprise was that there is the special means of law enforcement support system at the filtering centers of the for example, letters, because the relevant bodies, the controlling bodies, should filter it by index, by postal index, by zip code, or by by address, by name, and so it can be taken picture of this. So it is quite a difficult system. It is a fantastic tool, and it really functions, which really surprises me. And quite evident I think it is the access to the database of the post operators, the information about letters which were sent, packets which were sent. And sometimes people write on the envelopes anything they want. And so there can be written, so near village, near the village Nagatino, or the red door nearby. So it is quite difficult to define the address exactly. But the postman also always bring the letters at the exact addresses. And so the postal operators know 26 ways to write the word St. Petersburg. And now, finishing this issuing of the implementation rules. So we're almost ready with the rules on implementation of commutation and routing equipment. So, there is the number. There is a list of rules. These are rules on certain equipment at the data network. They should support the connection with the with special equipment, and also the loop buffer for 12-hour, so to that this buffer can be replayed. It is in case, for example, if the object of the control is somebody sent from the internet cafe, and then you can see this what has been sent and looking at the traffic. And now everybody thinks about their own network, and you can imagine how many storages we need to keep the traffic for the last 12 hours. So the it is very cheap to do it. Well, the problem is quite serious because we understand the necessity, and at the same time it is a very big volume to be stored. It is discussed now, and it is widely discussed at the internet, and all the operators are very disappointed by this document. They control and MAC addresses, IPv4, login, emails, then in webmail too, and so and there is the application. There is a list of webmails which should be supported by the related means and facilities. So there is the it has to do with the connections which are not encrypted, and the precision with the speed of 100 gigabit per second. But the protocol is quite simple, and it has not been changed since 15 or 10 years. The control by the UIN and ICQ and just give me 3 seconds. And there is the connection, there is the transfer of the geographical location, but introduction of this system is very, very expensive. And as for implementation of the database, here are the features of these documents. We can think about the volume of storages, especially about the statistics of all TCP connections and UDP packages. Not the content, but statistics. From where and to where it went, when, and so on. There are many difficulties here. And you can guess what operators said when they saw this. My colleagues from Scartel could react now. And the operators of the database, like Vertica, do not know anything about this. And so services make Oracle for this. And the cost of solution is 1.5 times higher as the budget of the organization for a year. While URM producers say that they use specialized database and it knows what it keeps, and such speeds are not a problem for this. But the thing is that the operators do not find correct solutions. But now we have a discussion with the operators. First, we are going to introduce the categories of storaging time. It is nonsense to keep the statistics on UDP traffic for 3 years. People know that the territorial bodies do insist on keeping this for 3 years. Then we must, of course, classify this for how long we should keep it. Well, should I stop at the problem so you understand all of them? Or should I announce them? I hope that we don't need it, because we have already spoken about MNP. The main thing, there is no connection between the bodies and the regulator in this area. I mean, my ministry. There is no regulating document where the law enforcement body enlists what they need. I have already said it to the law enforcement bodies, and they are ready to make such a list, because in the other case there can be too much wished, much more than what we can. And you know that the legal interception function is installed to all commutators. But the attempt to use this interface, the not understanding as the internal code, and is the list as a secret, then the bodies do not let the producers to keep the object of control. And I know some examples when the operators could get the information about the controlled objects, and maybe the law enforcement bodies know what they do. I would like to use current solutions, not inventing something completely new. The regulating framework in our country is very difficult to be changed, and we need a lot of time and a lot of efforts to change it. The technologies emerge much quicker, and VPN, LTE, IMS control is not reflected in the documents. And then it can be solved on spot. And of course, there is growing costs by the operators. It costs a fortune, and nobody can say what happens in 5 years. Maybe over 100 million US dollars should be invested in 5 years for this. And all the requirements of law enforcement support system should be met by all the operators, and for some operators this sum is very high. Maybe we should decentralize less, and maybe there can be some services who filter traffic, and so the operator filters the traffic, and then you avoid any problems with some controlling and supervision bodies. It is the biggest problem. In the regulating documents, there are requirements on the hill traffic. We should either segregate the traffic or to put so many boxes that its number is in millions. But thank God we should not install such a box in each house. But it is the problem, still a problem. And of course, we have... so sorry, Vartan, we have run out of time. At the next session we have time, so maybe we can move. Well, it will be a cool session. I have a question. Just 3 questions. I have 3 different questions. No, just I can give from my. Could you raise your hands? Who read the bill of the 3rd part of the decree? Vartan, do you know? I have written it. So I am the only person who have read it. Then I understand why you read this, because there is some orthographical. So there is the problem of terminology. That was an orthography mistake, and quite widespread story. And any changes, and all the law enforcement bodies are against any changes, notwithstanding the orthographical mistake. But the main question is the following. You write a lot of decrees, we install a lot of equipment. Does anybody follows the law enforcement support system, its functionality? How many lawful interceptors were there? Maybe we invest now millions of dollars, and they listen to just one talk. The supervision of this activity is run by another body. We're technical body, but well. Could you put in the decree that all this equipment is paid by the law enforcement bodies? You can see there are the representatives of the European countries, and all this equipment is paid by the law enforcement bodies, your regulator, and you are to solve this problem. So please, quicker. Then another question. Could you explain the position of lawmaker and the regulator? Who pays for the equipment of law enforcement support system, and for what is installed by the operator? So the position of the regulator is placed in the documents. So the operator should follow the law, and there is a decree on on launching of the networks, and each operator should sign a plan of introduction of law enforcement support system. And what is said by the lawmakers? Who should pay for equipment installation? The support to the law enforcement bodies is by the operators. So please, the next question.
Forgive me for
Can you
speaking.
louder? Can you speak louder?
Marco,
Could you?
Marco Hoogwaning, Rijp NC. Forgive me for speaking English. My Russian is not so good. First of all, appreciate the openness for you standing here and explaining what you're doing. That's very much appreciated. That you're willing to come to the operators and explain what you're doing. I've got a question that is not completely on topic of the intercept system as you just shown, but can you explain maybe what is there, or what is the role for public registries in terms of law enforcement? Are you using our WHOIS databases to steer your actions, or is this completely fed from information you get from the operators themselves in terms of who has which IP addresses and where to go in terms of intercept?
That would be the question, not to the regulator for the standards body, but rather to the guys on the other side of the wire. I don't know.
Вопросов много.
There are many questions. I have one little question. How did you solve the problem with Skype? We have discussed this with the law enforcement bodies. Skype is an unlicensed activity. Moreover, I can say that there are millions of programs which work via internet, and we cannot license all of them. The problem with there is the following thing: if something is not licensed, then for the regulator it does not exist. So there are no law enforcement support system. Technically I cannot speak about the Skype control, and we don't have any position here. In the current legal documents, there are no requirements. I like the filtering traffic idea. If you're a little internet provider, you don't have just money for equipment, and to go on, and there should be a reasonable mechanism for law enforcement support system. And our idea is to organize such a service. Okay, thank you. So my name is Ilya Popov. We are actually for a little operator, and we have a box. So the box is not certified. It can be certified. Should we pay several million US$ again? Are there any ideas? I hope no. You will not need to buy. There will be boxes, and I hope that the producers will certify the whole series, the whole range. But the certificate was not for the time when the box was produced. Well, the box will be tested, and when you launched your network, you didn't ask. Maxim Tulakov. Is internet exchange within the scope of this law? No. I'm from NetAssist. I suppose that it will lead to the fact that the whole traffic will be encrypted. Yes, it can be so. Dmitry Petrov, Comfortel. what body will certify the law enforcement support system equipment. There is a certification lab of the Rossvaz, which certifies the rest. And you've said that there will be competition between the producers of this equipment. What will be changed? Unless we don't have the test program, each network has its own things. You know, there is no competition in this production. And the last question. These requirements. The requirements. Are you going to explain the interoperation traffic and the traffic of end users? Unfortunately, we cannot say it basing on the documents, on the existing documents. We have the observations of Rostelecom, and it is well described, and there is a new edition, because it is quite obvious to split this. Because we're speaking better. Okay, sorry, we have 10 minutes for the coffee break. So please, all the questions at the coffee break. I'm very sorry.